Thank you guys for showing up, and also thank you so much, Malvern, for being who you are. I'm going to plug this place for a second, or maybe 45 seconds. It'll be fast anyway. I used to be addicted to buying surrealist books here. Every Tuesday, I would come by on a bus stop and buy another surrealist book. And before I knew it, I had Hans Belmer, Tristan Zara, all this in my bag. And I was like, this is a real problem. Only for me. Not for them, not for anyone. It's a great thing. I love this place. And I wouldn't have been launching anywhere else in Austin. So, I'm going to do this thing where I'm going to talk a little bit about this story. This collection might as well have been published about like 10 years ago, except for it wasn't done. Not until my dad died, right? Not until my dad died. When my dad died, I literally wrote a story on the day that he was put into the earth. It was revised maybe one time, and then it was out, and then it was collected, and I said, oh, this book's collected. The first short story in this thing came out in, I think the denouement was the word 30. Right? So let me talk about my last short story here. By the way, hi. Thanks for braving the darkness. It's a dark night. I don't know how many of you guys like write fiction or write poetry. I have no idea. But I personally think that they're sort of both, but I do. So maybe I'm scamming that, but I believe this is poetry, as it was published as fiction. Red lines drawn in the blue room. Today around 4:30 a.m. I gathered together all the obituaries I had written over the last 3 years, which when I poured them out of their shoebox shell tallied up to 47. I was looking for frequently used, overused words of mourning, words like august and magnanimous, and variants on the phrase, like a boon to the community. It was no secret that there was a formula for making these obits sing. Be understated, and don't blurt out that the dead guy wanted to go to Jesus or join his loved ones in the new home in heaven, even if the dead guy might have actually really wanted his obit writer to let this information be known. Even if this sentiment was his last goddamn wish, what the hell does this dead guy know now that he is no more? And what does he have to say about anything now that he is gone and at the mercy of my laptop? Understatement is the sole undertaking, and it is far more delicate a project than the work executed by the actual undertaker. The word cosmopolitan appeared 3 times in my 3 years of obit work to describe 3 people that I knew for a fact had never left the county, let alone the country. A wedding planner named Wilma was savvy, but so too was a carpenter named Pete. Had all this understated overstatement been underhanded? What crimes had I committed by dancing up the dead? I wasn't up all night thinking it over. I had fallen asleep at 8 p.m. I'd slept until 4 a.m. I lay in bed telling myself that I should lie prone and sleep more and more and finally start to get hungry. I had not been hungry in a week, not since my Aunt Teresa died, and I was once again asked to write a little something for the church paper. This meant I was also going to write a little something for the actual paper, the one that used to get tossed house to house for free on Wednesdays, but now can only be read online. I felt that being this awake was a sign of health, that I should not brush it off. I should make coffee, make water, and then look at 3 years of my obits. Aunt Teresa had been living in my place for the last 6 months, died. The insurance UPS'd over a cardboard box of frozen TV dinners to my front door, blueberry and grain bars, frozen bags of what I took to be powdered milk, and a microwavable pea and carrot and meatloaf plastic hospital food tray that I will offer to Meals on Wheels. The package arrived at 6 p.m. on the day of her burial. 3 hours after my aunt was in the ground, the church sisters were unloading the flowers for her service into my living room to keep them in an air-conditioned place because the church turns off its AC at night to save on the electric bill. I was planning on letting Victoria Temple keep the flowers after the service, but I was only going to be able to do that by bringing all the flowers back to the church on Sunday, just like I brought them in for the memorial service. It would be the same toxic plant, stinky Texas heat, the same base water spilling on my nutmeg-hued Sanzabel polyester church pants. Then came all the handshaking and me trying to wash my hands so hard in the bathroom where the church never allows hot water. Only the cold pours out. I used to think they were afraid of getting sued for the potential burn on parishioners. Now I think that the church is just against anything hot. Hot blood, hot sauce, all the church clothes are so hot, and hell is so hot, and the coffee you have to wait for to cool before you drink. The instant coffee the insurance shipped my way was the first good, consciously hot thing I had tempered in a week. I boiled a pan of water and clipped a cube of that frozen milk into a ceramic cup that said "Number 1 Son" and stirred its bark brown dehydrated flecks into a swirl with my index finger before pouring over the pile of obits. The words I wrote for the dead were never changed in the actual paper. Words like steadfast and phrases like years of observance stayed put. In the church paper, someone always took a vis-a-vis marker to the print of the page. I submitted and changed up a lot of nouns and verbs into insulting coffin cush. Now Jim Maricone died at home goes Jim Maricone joined his Lord. Now Toby Thorogood succumbs to his illness because Coach Thorogood separated from his earthly ties. And Gertrude Sullivan no longer even got to pass away, but had to graduate to her new home. Look, I am no atheist, and I find nothing duller than a sarcastic and skeptical man proclaiming his doubt before a crowd that could not care less and always expects more. Repeat and rephrase. Nothing is more offensive to me than an unfunny fellow cheap-shotting his way to cheap laughs by paving holes where there never was a solid. Bill Maher, George Carlin, ha ha, fuck you. It is no feat to defeat the faithless. But before being a man of God, I am still a man of... I really don't like it when my words are changed. The obit I put together for Aunt Teresa was composed and changed. I told the world she was 68. She was an elementary school teacher and a lifelong member of Iglesia Apostolica, and that she was preceded in death by her father Gregario, her mother Susana, and her sister Flora. I knew she had a brother named Mateo who lives upstate, but they never spoke. So I wrote that Teresa had been survived by me. The bargain I made with Victoria Temple was that if I wrote obits for the church, if I was their newsletter guy for the dead, for a pamphlet we called Holy Ghost Post, I would not be expected to actually attend the services and the ceremonies. For 3 years, this was how I managed. So much death, right? And I have to actually really see it in their souls and write it out in their charms and their habits. You can understand how it messes me up, right? To be involved and have it be a church too. So please don't expect me to slow up on any grieving Sunday. It worked until Teresa died. Teresa, not my only aunt, but the only one I kept talking to. the only one who drove me around when my license was suspended and I still had to get to work after her baby sister died, her sister, my mother. I thought I should look in on her all the time, because even though she had that brother in El Paso and a cousin very close and far, she had no one else. Her stroke and her slow dissolve, and how quickly it made sense for me to invite her into my mother's old room, made me know full well that it was I who had no one else. The last 6 months were me, helping her to the door just so she could try to get the mail and the paper and heating up galdo for her. I called the girl who would bathe her and help her to the car that took her to the church, which was near enough to walk to, and then would meet me here at the curb when she was being dropped back off from service. We would watch a megachurch prosperity preacher named Calvin Cochise talk about tithing. And then we would watch a PBS cooking show she liked, that she was all about Italian bread. She would go to sleep at 9 p.m. and I would flip around the talk shows until I found an Adult Swim cartoon I liked and drink vodka tonics alone and sleep 5 hours and then get up when I heard her moving around in the morning. I was expected to be the pallbearer at her funeral, say some kind words about this kind woman, help with the metal fold-out chairs for her coffee Clatch memorial, and of course write the obit. The congregation at Victoria Temple is small. When I used to go every Sunday, I would count heads. I would always count around 28 people, 3 families for sure. No children unless it was Easter or Christmas or some young out-of-wedlock woman had just given birth and was just staying with a family that attended, and this woman had no problem wearing a velo and listening to Latino glossolalia. It is a dying church, but everyone knows someone who is dying, and regardless of the attendance or church membership, if you are a visitor and bring that doomed name up to Pastor Laffey, he will pray for the dying. He will do a deathbed visit and secure perhaps as much as $500 for any funeral service. The one catch, and the catch is no one but me, is that you will have an obit in our newsletter, The Verger, the alternative weekly that ceased print and went online after an editorial schism over a food column and some in-house havoc regarding rogue ad men who managed to sabotage the paper's admin, has no problem publishing the obits the way I write them. I send all death notices in, as if they were letters to the editor. The obits are in no need of editing, 0 edits. I include a picture of the dead and send everything in anonymously like some vigilante on a digilante vigil. And the words go up, no problem. Maybe 3 or 4 people recall the dead and have a line of bless you now and forevermore. We'll hold you in our thoughts and prayers. But sometimes there are so many people that want to leave their feelings of loss. It blows my mind. How could anyone with rest in peace ever just died of pneumonia? But it happens. Will happen again. This morning, looking over the 47 obits I have kept in a shoebox and will soon move into scrapbook. My Aunt Teresa once intended to keep recipes. I know that I will no longer have a part of any of it. I was supposed to make it an appointment to speak directly with Laffey, pastor of Victoria Temple, but saw his powder blue Oldsmobile parked outside of the parking lot and went in. The light was on in the office. It was 5:40 a.m., so the man had slept over. There was a room that was supposed to be a sanctuary for illegals, okay, with cleaning up around the pews for rooms, okay, for anyone around the cops who needed to get their story straight for the big turn-in, okay, which would, of course, be encouraged. I often dreamed of this room, which I only saw 2 times. Once, a woman from another church, from another city, in the same denomination, was in hiding from an abusive guy. Or that was the story that we all heard on Sunday. I heard the story, even though I wasn't in service, from my aunt and others. I actually saw the girl in the room when I was coming in to turn in the week's obit. Managed the girl into a blue room, was in hiding. Or maybe she was coming down. Or maybe she was just Lappy's guest. The room was cobalt chalk azure, with its own always blowing window, aircon conditioned, even though the whole building was climate controlled. There was an ochre-stained wood twin bed, a walnut brown plastic mini fridge, a white trash bag of folded towels, jeans, and t-shirts, and a calendar. I always knew a calendar. Last year's was Lappy's, slept there, images of Jerusalem. Well, this year, it was his blue bonnets of Texas. Pastor Lappy slept there on the night in between service, especially since his wife left to do missionary work in Argentina. The other time I saw the blue room, I was walking through to drop off an obit and saw Lappy asleep on the floor. Not even on the bed, but conked out atop a crayon blue colored exercise mat like he was doing yoga and had passed out while attempting the corpse position. I placed the obit on the bed and decided to email my death notices to him from then on. It is a testimony to Lappy's faith in God and man that he never locked the church doors. If you knew the right door to try, you could always get in. It was not the front door. The front door was glass, starting to crack when some vacation Bible school brat tossed a rock at his sister and hit the church door instead. He used clear tape to hold the glass together. Later, a palsy-afflicted parishioner slammed the door hard because this guy could only get anywhere by slamming it hard and walking hard, plugging choice into every step. So we needed to reach into the donation can for new glass door money. That one door stays locked for sure. The doors beside the church, the doors by air conditioned near the green recycle can that is never taken to the street can, and that one back door are open for all the time. I walked in and looked at my cell phone to see the time. 6 a.m. Lappy would want someone to wake him up if he wasn't already ready. I lightly knocked up the office sanctuary door, started to knock again, and the door opened up. Pastor Lappy was serious, squinting for sight, and then smiled quickly once he recognized me. "Brother Bert!" I didn't know anyone would be meeting me this day for prayer or for prayer breakfast. I'm woefully unprepared for prayer this day. But let us eat. Without a soul before me, I drink coffee and pace and wait for someone to join me for lunch. But you are here, so let us to the kitchen. Coffee's all I have time for, I said, having some preparedness with a pocket of insurance-provided cereal bars. Lappy shook his head, put his hand on my shoulder, and started to walk me down the hall as if there was something he did not want me to see in the cobalt chalk white room. I let him lead me to the kitchen, where there was a radio on a small radio with a smaller radio with a cassette player that said "Garbage Pail Kid" sticker over its dial, and an ugly cartoon had been rubbed off. The red words "Garage Ids" was discernible. I felt ashamed that I used to buy those horrible stickers all the time. The radio was turned very low, to a static channel where I could hear a man talking in Spanish slowly, as if he was delivering a farmer's report in a silo. Laffy messed up with his dial until I heard, "Alleluia!" and then some clapping in an organ. Laffy turned the knob down for the click-off. The pastor pushed a styrofoam cup of coffee my way and bit upon a tiny sliver of individually packed tube of Philadelphia cream cheese and squeezed the rich dairy over his sliced and already toasted bagel. Holding one half of his breakfast before his open mouth, he motioned down the other side to the other half of his index finger to lend me a registry of his offering. He was waiting for me to allow him to eat. I shook my head, sipped at my coffee, and watched Laffy chew. On my walk over, I kept in mind that I had only wanted to thank him for all he had done for my aunt's service, for all the rides he had managed to get for her to church, and to tell him that now that she was gone, I would be cutting out. And I appreciate it all, but this is my exit. But instead of that style of straightforwardness, I started to lie. "Pastor, I will be leaving town very soon. I will be gone for months and months, and I cannot in good faith keep up with the obits." Laffy kept chewing. I went on. "I don't know how to go on with this work, and without putting in jeopardy, writing the wrong thing, and I'm going to be on the road and visiting so many people I've not been so long. And where will you be worshiping?" Pastor Laffy asked me. He didn't ask where I was going to be or tell me he knew I was lying. He was asking me where I would be putting my prayers. I didn't have the strength to tell him what I had planned on saying to him if he bugged me, which would have been something close to Dr. Seuss Kiss Off. "Anywhere but here, man on a bench on a boat, man with a goat in the pockets of my coat, man." I just shrugged into my shoulders and wondered aloud how many people were attending Victoria Temple these days. So many people are here now. How many are we now? I haven't been here in a while. Are we still at 28? Yeah. Man, that's our goal. That's our deal. I said, 28. Laffy put on a paper napkin to his lips and cleared his throat. Attendance is up, Bert. I don't have to tell you that a lot of this brisk walk-in is because of the work you do for us and what you write about, the departed. People read obits, and they read about the obits and how they originate. Even though you keep all that information out of the local rag, like you're ashamed or in hiding, the obits you write get forwarded, get sent, and people get the same name of the same church over and over. Maybe they send a thank you, maybe they even stop by to say thanks in the flesh, and I know that the tape of what we were once when we were 200 strong is around. I tell them, we've stayed here on this land even after the split in '89. Why Victoria Temple is still a living church. And 3 out of every 33 that ponder that place are pilgrims. That's God, Bert, but that is also you. I stared at the coffee pot that was still on and making a hissing sound, even though there was no more coffee in it. Can I show you something, Bert? Only if it's going to be on my way out. Pastor Lafcadio Gomez started to walk me to the blue sanctuary room where he had spent this night, and who knows how many other nights. Maybe sleepy, maybe not, but an utter accessibility to his flock. And to anyone else who knew, the back door was always open. The blue room smelled of sweet musk cologne samples and even smelled of the slick fashion magazines that would house them. Instinctively, I sat on the bed, which was made and tucked in a bounce-a-quarter type way because I was suddenly so tired. Even though I had slept 8 dreamless hours. He opened a drawer and pulled out a slim phone book beneath it, which covered the 3 towns that together fused a population of 55,000 around Victoria Temple. Pastor Laffey placed the phone book to my left side and waited for me to pick up, to thumb through the pages. I noticed blue marker asterisks marks by certain names, then green marks, and then a few red slashes that through some names that were also dotted with a green marker point. I was on Alvarez Josie when I realized that the blue marks were names of people who regularly attended Victoria Temple. I reasoned that the green dots were for people who visited, and then I knew that the red dots were for those who would not be back, whether that was not by choice or not. These guys were stricken from the white pages of this phone book. I even knew one of the names of one of the red-lined guys, Gabriel Soto. He was a kid I knew who used to hang out with me, and my cousin Sammy, over at Teresa's when we were 9. And she would bring up vacational Bible school encouragement. We went there in early August. I convinced him to come to church with me because I wanted to have a friend go with me. And I got him to go with me to Victoria Temple because it was in summer. The building was cool. There were snacks. There were girls and Bible quotes everywhere. And Gabriel and I stopped talking in our 20s. Outside of our cage of adolescence, we had nothing in common. He got married at 23 when I was deciding how long I could hang around on campus and it wouldn't start to look ridiculous. At some point, Gabriel returned to the church. Must have felt he needed the church. And this was the most essential sacrifice he made when all this happened. I had already stuck a deal that would exclude me from ever having to attend a Victoria Temple. So I never knew Gabriel Soto there. Now, for some secret reason, Gabriel Soto was not ever coming back to church. I flipped the pages of the phone book to get to my name, my house, and number, where I lived, and where my Aunt Teresa had died. I had no blue, and I had no green, and I had no red. I was an unmarked man. I have to visit with one of the elders in the morning, Bert. Otherwise, I would chat with you. I heard. Lafcadio continued, I'm going to call you this afternoon. I'm going to call you at 1 p.m. and ask you 3 very important questions. And whatever you say, however you respond, I will have my markers on me so I don't forget. It was 8 a.m. when I shut the back door and started walking away from Victoria Temple and eating a blueberry cereal bar and feeling the sun make the city unbearably bright. I never drank when I wrote obits, and usually celebrated the completion of getting an obit into the verger by drinking to the dead, and then staying put in my cold room for the dead. My Aunt Teresa never drank, and I never wanted to drink when I was in front of her, so I just went back to my cold room to look at the funeral flowers. They were sprayed so stiff, and they would look for another house to hold them. I got up to lie down on the tiles of my kitchen, close my eyes to see the dots, see when you come from bright, and close your eyes. In a darker place, you see the dots and wait for the call. Thank you for bearing with me. That was a kind of emotional thing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It was like, I was thinking about my dad a little bit, so. For a treat for you guys, I will read you a completely scary story that is only 2 pages long. Unless you guys don't want it. What time are we on?
7:39.
Oh, how about I just give the intros? 7:39?
Whatever you want.
That's not a good idea.
Well, I have to say, a 2-page story sounds great.
Well, then why don't we let you do it?
You want me to read your story?
Of course.
Which
I
one?
just asked. Random.
Random?
It is well, you know what? You're in charge.
No, you gotta tell me where the 2-page story is. This is a lot of
There
pressure.
is no 2-page story, but I have 2-page paragraphs.
It's all over
You
ruse.
can find them.
It's all over ruse. Alright.
What's your name, bud?
Logan Robichaud.
Oh, thank you for your information and your hospitality.
Of course.
God, I always think that like reading out loud about my dad's stuff, and he wasn't even there, right? Jeez.
Same name. Same name.
Okay, I'm gonna read the first story.
Oh, wow.
Plans and construction paper.
Thank you. Somebody should, not me.
Not you?
I got paid like a 28 with that, or 27 with that, right? Like that was a long time.
Yeah, tell us the story of the story before I read it.
No, don't do that. Just read.
Okay. Beverly was pacing outside the cafe, almost walking in for 10 minutes, scooting her feet over loose gravel and discarded cigarette butts. She was talking on a cell phone in the patio area, looking mad and crazy, leaning on someone's parked minivan, then walking over to the plastic trash bin, softly kicking its green plastic skin. From the booth by the window where I sat and stirred sugar into my coffee, Beverly looked as if she were arguing with a lover she could never give up, then as if she were trying to offer directions to a TV delivery man. Her made-up face was busy with serious movement, lips and brow getting diplomatic, then abandoning their quick wrinkle of diplomacy and becoming stern. Last year, when Beverly and I were dating, when I had a steady occupation and a life plan, watching her on the phone like that would have killed me. In league with the anxious and wounded sect of men who want to keep their jobs, their girlfriends, their quiet places in town, I felt threatened whenever I saw anyone seeking a public privacy. In weakness, I could not watch office jokers snickering by a water cooler. I would feel a shift in my gut when it looked as if some brave soul was getting ready to ask an unsuspecting spirit out on a date. Now I am cool with everything. I know that. And I don't need a showered and powdered throng of clock-ins who, through the inconveniences of 9-to-5 pleasantries, are obliged to shoot off inane platitudes to hide from the boss. With no job, no girlfriend, and no place in the city, I have become serene. I can meet Beverly for coffee and have an actual conversation and not be blown into hysterics by the caffeine. I can watch her yap on her cell phone and not be under the politics of the muffled head noises that used to surround and fence my every stratagem. Beverly stopped by my apartment earlier that day. I was in the shower and she called out to me as I scrubbed the suds of shampoo from my neck and shoulders. "Hey Terry, I know we had plans to meet at 5 and that's still on, but I was walking past your place and thought I'd come in, see what you were up to." I hollered back a hello, but did not speed up my shower just to accommodate a girl who lacked the social sense to walk away from the door when the knock was not answered. Besides, when I got out of the shower, Beverly was gone. There was a note pinned to my fridge reminding me of our date. Beverly and I had not spoken, really spoken, talked about our lusts and limits and the way we had let our respective worldviews slide in over a year. And I had given up even thinking about our good times, about the art gallery we once walked through, and the Rossellini movies we watched when we weren't publicly dating. Beverly and I used to go out at least 3 times a week, and we felt like a sexy couple. We screamed inappropriate insults at each other and found our definitive calm whenever we were apart. We were not good for each other. I did not believe that Beverly needed closure. And I knew that I did not. We had bumped into each other at the mall and grocery store. There were no mean faces, and there was zero attraction. We could wish each other well, so we did. Out of nowhere on a Friday morning, she called and wanted to meet and talk. I started to approach a kind of discomfort and anger I had not felt in over a year, and I asked her outright what she wanted to talk about. I'm leaving town, and I wanted to say my goodbyes. Goodbyes? Yes. You aren't the only person I'm calling. Yeah, just the first, right? No, not the first. We got quiet. Enough time for me to feel like an idiot and understand that Beverly owed me nothing. And that was a state I had tried to encourage. More I knew I would, in all honesty, get a kick out of seeing her, especially if she was leaving town. Right out of the shower, once I had called her name and realized she had left, I sat on the couch, drying chest and shoulders with a towel and looking around the room where Beverly had just been. I got up and walked to the kitchen. There was a glass in the otherwise empty sink and a drip from the faucet. I guessed I could trust her walking through the neighborhood story and assumed that she needed hydration. I got up to shut off the faucet and saw a notebook that wasn't mine. It was a leather-bound address organizer that looked as if it had been passed from angst-ridden teenager to angst-ridden 20-something for over a decade. Haphazardly, I grabbed it, and a sheet of yellow construction paper slid out and caught its showy glide to the linoleum. Not bothering with the sheet, I opened the book and found, besides about 30 loose sheets of construction paper, mostly yellow, but there was also blue and baby blue, a recent photograph of Beverly. To my surprise, I found myself gripping the notebook with a kind of jolt and sudden knuckle tension that sent a few more sheets of construction paper on their graceful dive. Beverly had cut her hair. Short and sexy, chocolate tresses hung suspended in blow-dried curls over her white shoulders. She was not smiling, but I knew that look, with her left eyebrow deciding whether it should raise a question, her eyes widening to emphasize mock worry. Beverly was happy. In this picture, Beverly looked glad to be alive. I put it down where she had left it and got ready for our date. I wanted to dress up nice for her, let her think I was moderately prosperous and functioning, but the pinstripe pants I wanted to wear felt tight, and all the buttoned-up shirts that would have matched them were dirty anyway. I threw on a pair of blue jeans and a black t-shirt and went back to look at the notebook. The appointment pages were inked with dates and errands to run. Go see Dr. Ruiz about selling your car. Check out the hostel situation in Canada. See about language schools in Chile. Get a passport. Beverly was in action. And that was okay, but that struck me as strange. But what struck me as strange was that on each sheet of construction paper, written with a felt tip marker, there was a statement about her future. Each statement was mutually exclusive. You are 30 years old and watering a lawn in Abilene, Texas. You are 30 years old and walking up the steps of the Cologne Cathedral. You are 30 and avoiding pregnancy in Puerto Rico. It was like some terrible joke about chance. Beverly was 26, and this kind of projection seemed outside of her character and too personal for me to be looking at. When it was time to go, I made sure to bring the notebook with me. Beverly had spent private energy on it, and I did not want to be responsible for its loss. Once at the cafe, I decided to leave the notebook in the car until she asked for it. If I brought it in, that would have been what we talked about. When Beverly decided to get off the phone and start our date, she immediately ran over to scoot herself in the boot seat across from me. She must have seen me through the window. I started rising to give her a hug or kiss on the cheek, but she was already planted, and now she was clasping my hand and saying how good it was to see me. Her palms and fingers were so warm, I could feel sweat start up in my own, and I slowly eased out of her grip before she let go. She was going to say something that would freak me out, I just knew it. She was going to drop a subpoena on me, and so would say I owed her money, or tell me she got a job at an antique store and now needs back the jewelry boxes she left in my apartment. So I said, God, Beverly, you look terrific. Maybe she did. It was too fast for me to find arousal or even contentment in her looks. She was dressed as if she cared what people thought about her. Skirt and blouse and everything ironed, earrings that seemed to match her flats and the watery joy in her brown eyes. She exhaled with sentiment and consideration and then said, I feel terrific. I feel so... Eyes looking up at the ceiling, then at me. She grabbed for my hands again. I just feel so much in general. What the hell? Was she on something? Had Beverly just found Jesus or the Buddha within? Maybe she was getting married. No, I remember she was leaving town. So, where are you planning on escaping? I'm not saying. I suppose that means no new mailing address. Terry, I'm not saying because I do not know. Enough money just to get away, to go anywhere for at least a summer, and she didn't want to force a locality upon herself. Beverly was never good at saving money, always buying CDs and eating out every meal. If she had swung this caper, then she must be a very different person from the girl I cheated on and eventually was too ashamed to show my face around. I did not want to talk about where she might be traveling. and she did not want to talk about why. But I had seen what was written on the sheets of construction paper and had my hints. Beverly was always one to be defined by her company. When we were dating, I could measure how close we were by how little she threw in her opinion. It was not a characteristic I liked being around. Maybe she had come to deal with her acquiesce in nature, and maybe she wanted to shake up her scene, drop her pliant roles, and be with someone else for a while. Maybe that was her long-term goal. Why the hell not? The one thing that losing my long-term ambition had taught me, besides how to appreciate the poetry of late-night TV and the quiet dignity in the people who deliver my mail, was how hollow an enterprise it was to think a new scene would burn away the deadness of life. At least for me. I wanted somehow to spare Beverly that lesson, because when that lesson hits you, the first thing you feel is shame. Before any serenity, you have to eat a lot of fear. Maybe if you stuck around, we could start seeing each other again. You don't mean that. And you don't want that. She saved me then, neither do I, by slowly letting go of my hands and then calling the waitress over to order a chai tea. Beverly asked about my job situation, so I went in on it. I quit the office, quit the comic book store, got fired from the moving company, and just stopped going to the tree farming gig. Somehow, because I could always find quick words, I had enough to live and eat and drink, and when I got my laundry and libido together, go out on a few dates. Life was life and had never been more than I had perhaps been less. We talked for a little over an hour, and there was no judgment if there was also no love. I found out that while she had been outside the cafe on the cell phone, she was in fact putting the final breakup touches on a guy she'd been seeing for a month. She had hoped to meet him for drinks after she met me for coffee. Last page. The call did not go so well, and she was now without a ride. Lucky I brought my car. Oh yeah, I was so lucky. I felt nervous when I realized the St. Peter Gabriel tape was hanging out of the mouth of the stereo since the last night we went out. For sure I had listened to something else besides this tape, but maybe I hadn't. Maybe I hadn't even played it all year. We were at her door in 5 minutes, and there was not a moment when I thought we would kiss, give deep, lung-crushing hugs. Beverly smiled. I repeated to her that I thought she looked terrific, which I now concede was true. Then Beverly pulled her hand out and pinched my belly through the fabric of the worn t-shirt material. So do you, Terry? I always thought so, but I still do. Then I remembered that her notebook was in the glove compartment. Oh, wait, I said, and jogged back to the car. When Beverly saw what I pulled out of the door, her look of shock and relief was enough to make me want to beg her to stay in town, just so we could become friends again, rent movies together, gossip, tell jokes. You left this in my kitchen when you stopped by during your walk. Man, I didn't even know I had lost it. She seemed afraid. Did you look through it? Some papers fell out when I picked it off the counter. Don't worry, I put them back in. Back at the apartment, I pulled up my shirt and went to the fridge to grab a beer. The first sheet of construction paper that had fallen out of her notebook was still on the kitchen floor. After I grabbed a can, I picked up the sheet and walked over to the couch. In the center of the yellow sheet of construction paper were the words, I am 30 years old, sitting in an Italian movie theater, watching Open City. There was a 2-day-old newspaper by the remote control. I had spent the 50 cents to see what films were showing and to read the personal ads. I opened it up to the job section and found a travel agency that wanted a full-timer with some managerial experience. I wrote down the number to call on the sheet of construction paper that I was now using a coaster for my beer, right over the word 30.